Namaskaram. A rare honor has been bestowed upon me to curate this listening session of one of the most towering personalities, one of the most gifted, one of the most creative and influential musicians of Carnatic music from the 20th century. Marking his birth centenary this year, we are going to be listening to the music of flute wizard Shri T R Mahalingam. This session is brought to you by MOPA, Museum of Performing Arts. Let us begin this session with Raga Behag from one of his RPMs in the late 1940s that catapulted him to dizzying heights. I shall be playing music of flute Malis from the pre-1960 era. Mali was at his peak in the 40s and in the 50s before he went into this self-imposed seclusion in the early 60s. A lot of us, present generation musicians and the present lot of Rasikas are acquainted to Mali's music from the 70s and 80s thanks to a huge repository of recordings that are available on YouTube and other audio platforms. But there is much more to Mali's music than just the nidanam, the spacing out of sangatis between one another, and a lot of his playing in the lower octave. So I would like to draw all your attention to his music from the 40s and the 50s that defined Mali, that kind of took Mali to dizzying heights, and he becoming the phenomena that he eventually became. We'll be discussing various facets of Mali's music. But let me start with one of the toughest skill to master on the flute, which is perfect pitching or adherence to tanpura or shruti. No flute is ever manufactured 100% in precision to the scale in which it is being tuned to. The margin for error is always present, and hence it becomes a very difficult skill to master. Mali, I believe, was a master when it came to playing anything on the flute with perfect pitching, be it presentation in the lower octave or in the upper octave, or playing a panchama or a shadjama right at the very beginning of the concert. His flute had this capacity to always stick to Shruti Suddham. I will be playing two recordings here. One from the early 50s of he playing Tulasi bilva in the ragam Kedara Gaula, a personal favorite of Mali's that stuck to his concert repertoire until his end. But this perhaps is the best rendition of Tulasi bilva by Mali, and there are several reasons which I shall be pointing out eventually through the process of this listening session. But one particular quality that stands out is how beautifully he presents the anupallavi and then the anucharanam of Tulasi bilva in the upper octave, with every note having extreme precision to the tanpura. And one particular moment which I feel is very close to divinity is wherein he touches the rishabham in the top octave and it's 100% in tune to the Tanpura. And that feeling to me was godly, and perhaps the Rasikas present in the concert also felt that very divine moment. Let us listen to Tulasi Bilva in the Ragam Kedaragauda. Such a marvelous rendition of Tulasi Bilva. Speaking of Mali and his music, I have had the honor of listening to him since the age of 4 and continue listening to him even to this day in and day out, spending so many hours of my time listening to his music. And something that I cannot help but do is compare his music spanning over 2-3 decades. Let us next listen to a rendition of Mali from 1970 Krishnagana Sabha concert, the very popular concert wherein he teams up with perhaps his most favorite set of accompanists, perhaps the kind of team that Rasikas back then also wanted to watch a Mali concert with. Shri T N Krishnan on the violin and Shri Palakkad Mani Iyer on the mridangam. No Mali listening session is complete without his rendition of Viriboni in the Ragam Bhairavi. It is believed that the very first composition that Mali learnt from his uncle Gopal Iyer was Viriboni. In this particular concert recording, you can see how these 3 giants beautifully weave magic at the very beginning of the concert with their presentation of Viriboni. It is interesting how Mali presents this particular varnam, specifically the 3rd Chittaswaram, the last Chittaswaram of this varnam, with a twist in the end, wherein he does a little bit of a tisram in the last 9 beats of the Chittaswaram. But what is important here is that between the lower octave and the upper octave, and also the fact that this is the very first number of the concert, and the concert is just about 10-12 minutes since it had started. But then Mali's pitching in the lower octave and the upper octave are absolutely spot on. This is a quality that one does not really master with practice alone, but you need to have that divine intervention to have this kind of a skill set on the instrument. Let us listen to the last Chittaswaram of Viriboni in the Ragam Bhairavi. There are various facets to music, technicalities such as Shruti Suddham, Pathandaram, Talam, virtuosity, presentation of compositions in Vilambakalam, Dhuritakalam, so on and so forth. While discussing instrumental music or an instrumentalist, one very striking feature that needs to be spoken about is the tonality or the tone of one's music. Mali perhaps had the most original tone, and that also was one of the most striking features of his flute playing early in his career. And it is quite astonishing to note that his tone never faded, even until the end of his career at the age of 59. This goes on to show that he was a true sadhaka, and the fact that he had mastered his craft so beautifully that regardless of the number of flutes that he used throughout his career, his tonality continued to remain as powerful as it was when he broke into the scene of Carnatic music. This perhaps is a testimony to his hard work or his conscious approach to his flute playing early on, or this also is because of the hardship that he was subjected to as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old. It is said that Flute Mali's father would put a lot of dust in the thinnai and would ask him to blow off all the dust in a single blow of air. So these factors perhaps combined in Mali creating and developing a rich tonal quality on the flute, which was unheard of before Mali. Mali's tone, specifically in the lower octave, was deep, robust, very powerful, meditative, and all along in perfect sync with the Tanpura. Let us now listen to one of his RPMs from the late 40s, where he presents a 3-minute alapana of ragam Kambhoji, followed by a very short tanam. It is an oral delight to listen to this particular Kambhoji on short anjikate flutes that he used to play. It doesn't quite feel like he's playing in a anjikate flute. The tonality that he produces is akin to music that one would produce with the longer bass flutes. Here is Raga Kambhoji. The next recording that we shall be listening to and also watching is from Flute Mali's last concert from Krishna Gana Sabha that took place on the 31st of December 1986. He was 59 years old. The reason I choose to play this particular clipping of his is just to show how the tonality of his music and his flute playing remained consistent through a span of 3-4 decades. The next clipping will feature Mali's rendition of Shiva Shiva Enarada from 1986. Please do listen to the weight or the kind of body that the lower octave Panchamam that he produces. It is just ethereal. It's unbelievable and astonishing how he could produce so much sound with that tiny instrument that he played on. The earlier recording that we listened to was perhaps from the late 40s, and this is from 1986. So over a period of 4 decades, and not as much practice in his later years, he still retained the kind of tone that he had as a teenager. Mali's playing in the upper octave was akin to open-throated singing, wherein you basically do not hold back in fear of losing synchronization with the tanpura. So there's a tendency always to blow much lesser than what the flute can sustain, what the flute can absorb, in fear of losing the shruti. But Mali's confidence and his fidelity to perfect pitching, and as a reflection of his mastery and command over the flute, was so much that, his upper thigh renditions were similar to open-throated singing. And his lower octave, I have always come across Rasikas who have told me that appadi arumayana oru tone, appadi arumayana oru sound, arumayana meaning the pleasant tone of Mali's music. It just felt all, ever pervasive. There was something very, very sublime about his tone. Never hard on the ears, never a scratchy noise. And also in the lower octave, it felt as though he didn't try too much. There was not much effort that was put in to produce that kind of a tone consciously. So it either came to him naturally, or he had mastered his craft so beautifully in times wherein he never really had a benchmark to rise over, because you never had documentation of music back in the day. So it was his genius that came up with this kind of a tonality on his instrument. The next facet of Mali and Mali's music that we shall be talking about is his optimal frame of mind. Mali was a very sensitive musician. It was essential that he was in the right frame of mind for him to deliver his best, or perhaps as simple as showing up in his concerts. There were several instances where he wouldn't show up in his concerts, or he would perhaps end the concert and leave abruptly within minutes of commencement of the concert. With the recordings that we have, and based on my intense listening to Mali's music, one could always make out if he was in the right frame of mind, according to him, whether he was in a good mood or a bad mood based on his music. So here was a musician whose music was not driven by any of the external elements at all. His music was completely driven by him based on whether he was in his element, in his good mood or not. I'll be playing a couple of recordings here wherein the joy that he brings forth and the joy that you kind of experience listening to this concert 50 years later is perhaps a testimony to the kind of music that he produced, he played, and so true, so very honest in his representation of his music and kind of expressing his own mood, expressing his own version of the music that he presented. We have multiple versions of Mali's Manavyalakinchara or Manavyalakinchara in Nalina Kanti on internet. But this particular concert is from the early 50s. And the sheer continuity, power, brilliance, and the fact that he dwelled for a longer time in the upper octave, which he did early in his years, is a sheer joy to listen to. Let us listen to Mali's rendition of Manavyalakinchara in the ragam Nalina Kanti. There are a couple of times through this particular listening session that I'll be playing his various versions of Kapi. This particular version of his Kapi alapana is from the early 1960s, the very popular national program of his with violin maestro Sri M.S. Gopalakrishnan on the violin and Sri C.S. Murugabhupati on the mridangam and Sri M.N. Kandaswamy Pillai on the kanjira. This concert was recorded at a time when Mali was in a self-imposed seclusion and he had stopped performing as frequently as he used to. The first time I listened to this particular recording at the age of 7 or 8, I felt that Mali was trying to express some kind of pathos which was true to the kind of experiences that he was going through in his personal life as well. It is very interesting to know that how in a raga such as Kapi, he brings across a lot of pathos. Not just that, there are also certain very beautiful prayogas that you don't really listen to in Kapi in a very conventional method of constructing of raga, Kapi. Usages such as sa ga pa sa, and then complementing that with ni ri ma ni, These are certain phrases that were unheard of in Raga Kapi until Mali played this. And he executed this so beautifully that it does not feel like it was outside of Kapi. It does fall into the very gamut of what the Raga is. And we have this rare combination of Sri MSG with Mali, and the way in which MSG complements Mali's phrases is nothing short of beautiful and masterly. Terms such as maverick, genius definitely fit in perfectly for flute T R Mahalingam. One's genius cannot be described or put in words or explained, but certain qualities that perhaps made Mali the genius that he was his out-of-the-box thinking, and then the flawless execution with awe-inspiring precision that he presented his ideas and his music on his instrument. The next couple of recordings that I shall be playing for you here, for example, the Kapi, has him quote phrases from other genres of music, such as Flight of the Bumblebee. This particular concert with Vidwans, a very, very rare occasion of Vidwans Chembe Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar on the violin and Maharajapuram Vishwanath Iyer on the mridangam. This is perhaps the earliest complete concert recording of Mali's, and this I'm sure is from the early 1950s based on the details that I collected. The three musicians are having fun on stage. It perhaps was a jam session. Each one perhaps trying out something new on the stage, and with all the ballets and the sabash for one another, it felt not like a concert but like a jamming session. Let us listen to this out-of-the-world Kapi. I have never listened to someone play Kapi like this. I'm just not talking about the musicality of Kapi, but then the sheer mastery over the instrument and He perhaps mastered the instrument so much that whatever he had in his mind, his fingers would reproduce that. That's like 100% mastery, according to me. Because as an instrumentalist, you have twice the work of a vocalist. You not only master the music, but you also need to execute your ideas with the kind of precision that it strikes you here in your brain. So let us listen to Mali play Kapi like no one else ever has. And please do not miss out on him quoting and expanding and developing on the melody line of Flight of the Bumblebee. While discussing flute, it is but inevitable that we talk of artists' rendition of Raga Sindhu Bhairavi. Because according to me, Sindhu Bhairavi and the flute go hand in hand. There are not many recordings of Mali playing and exploring Raga Sindhu Bhairavi. Next, I shall be playing a 78 RPM recording of Mali playing Raga Sindhu Bhairavi. This is from the early 40s. In this particular rendition of Sindhu Bhairavi, you will come across combination of notes absolutely unheard of and which are not part of the conventional Sindhu Bhairavi that you listen to from Carnatic music or from Hindustani music for that matter. The fact that Mali could convey several emotions and paint several flares of Raga Sindhu Bhairavi within a span of 1.5 minutes goes on to show the kind of genius that he was. This particular alap, though just 90 seconds, has some of the most elegant slow phrases with which he starts, and then some phrases are absolutely lightning fast. Let us listen to this particular rendition of Raga Sindhu Bhairavi by Flute Mali the Genius. Flute T R Mahalingam and violin T N Krishnan started performing together in their teens. And this particular association led to several magical musical moments spanning 3 to 4 decades and several hundreds of concerts. In this particular recording that I'll be playing for you, what sounds like a cute little disagreement between the two leads to Mali's talent and his amazing ability to grasp and reproduce immediately on the flute, be it music or any kind of a sound, at the very first instance is showcased. While there is a friendly banter going on between Mali and TNK, where Mali tries to play something on the flute, which is difficult on the violin, and TN Krishnan trying to replicate the same, at one point in time says, "Na ipo onnu vasikren, adu ungalaala vaasi kaamika mudiyuma." And in the very first go, Mali reproduces that, and the audience is perhaps spellbound, and this leads to a thunderous applause.
Now,